In this video, we're going to create the next app for Chapter 18, 18.3 Animal Sounds. Notice here we have an app where we have a label. We've got 3 buttons that have emojis for the icons and then another label for instructions. So let's go ahead and open Xcode and create a new project. Remember, if you don't see that screen, choose File, New, Project. This is a single view application again. Click Next, and let's call this Animal Sounds. Press Return, and we can save it to wherever. Okay. Let's go to our main storyboard. First thing we want to do is adjust some things, make sure that we're sizing for the smallest device. So remember, we choose View As, and then we select the 4S, and that makes sure we're in good shape so that regardless of the size of the device, it will always work. So let's start with the row of animal buttons. Let's go over to our object library and type button, and then select and drag the button and let go. Now we want to go to the inspector and do a couple of things. One, we want to change the title by changing it to the cat emoji. And remember from previous videos, if you press Command Control Space, it's going to open the emoji window, and we want to find our cat. Where is our cat? Here, kitty, kitty. Here, kitty. Oh, I can choose this. All right, there we go. Is that it? Cat face. Perfect. Okay, go ahead. Press Return. Now we want to size that, make that quite a bit bigger. Let's go here under System, and let's change this to 72. Now notice it's getting cut off because it's much larger than what we've set. So to fix that, you can either do a couple things. You can go up to the editor and choose Size to Fit, or notice the keyboard shortcut Command equals. Perfect. All right, let's go ahead and duplicate this. So press Control D. Wait, make sure it's selected. Press Command D. I apologize. Command D. And let's do it one more time. And let's go ahead and change these. Command Option Space. Let's open up. What do we want? We want a dog. And we select the other button, and we want a cow. Cow, cow, cow. There it is. Perfect. Okay, so now, because we're going to have elements above and below it, notice that we have these items, they're quote stacked, or they're aligned next to each other, going left to right. We want to keep that relationship. If I were to add a label above or below, and then I selected all of them and I said create a stack, it would stack them vertically, one on top of the other. But if I start and press Shift and I click, then I come over here and I click my button that says Embed in Stack, it's going to embed it properly using it horizontal. So now, the other thing we can do, remember when you have the stack view, we can add some spacing. So let's go ahead and add some spacing. I can use the arrows, or I can just double click in there, and let's set it to 18. Okay, now let's go and add a couple of labels. We have a label at the top and a label at the bottom. And if we recall, we have animal sounds as the top one. And then notice how I'm double clicking and then it allows me to edit the text here. And so I'm saying tap an animal. These are the instructions. Okay, let's change the font size a little bit. Animal sounds, let's change this. 24. And then if you remember the shortcut, it's Command equals, and that sizes it to fit. Okay, so now we select, sorry, I want to click away. You can click and drag to select. And so here I'm selecting everything. Notice I have the stack view and the labels. Now if I come down here and I say embed in stack, check it out. It did it for me. See that? So there, it put it exactly the way we want. Now I can go back over here and notice this stack view selected. I can add some spacing and we say 10. All right, let's look at this for a second, see what's happened. We have embedded a stack view that has an orientation that's aligned horizontally, meaning they're side by side from left to right. That is one stack view. Then we've combined that with other elements, these UI labels, into a stack view that is aligned vertically. See that? Isn't that awesome? Now, remember what we did this before. Let's go ahead and add constraints. So we select the outermost stack view, and then we come down here and we're going to do the align, and we say horizontal center, vertically centered, and add two constraints. Perfect. Now if we check that out, notice when I rotate orientation, it stays nicely. Choose a larger device. Awesome. Very good. All right, now we need to add some code to make this work. Let's go ahead and click the assistant editor. And again, this brings up, and it's having trouble. It didn't find it. And part of the reason, let's see, if I select this view controller, occasionally it does this for some reason where it's not finding it automatically. If that's the case, you can go ahead and check manual and say animal sounds, and this, what it does is it drills down. Basically you're seeing everything that's over here on the left under the navigation panel. If I go to manual and then I go to animal sounds and then I choose view controller. So this is the view controller that matches this view controller here. Okay, now we know how to do actions and outlets because we're pros at this. So first, let's assign the, what do we want? The animal sounds label, which is this guy. And let's control, click and drag, and let's create an outlet. And we're going to call this animal sound label. And it's an outlet, and go ahead and click connect. Let's click cancel. There's a couple things we can do. First, let's go ahead and run this project and let's see if we can build it and see if it helps resolve it. Let's go ahead and choose the iPhone 5 one more time and let's run that. Alright, so we've got this running. Now nothing's happening, of course, because we don't have anything hooked up. So let's go ahead and stop this. Let's go back. So we have our main storyboard, and let's go to the assistant editor. All right, there it goes. It resolved itself. For some reason, and this happens occasionally, and it's more of a bug with Xcode, but it didn't make the association. It's done it before with other apps, but sometimes it gets out of sync. And a lot of times one way to do that is to build the app and run it, and that should resolve it. All right, very good. Let's go back to what we were doing. We were selecting the animal sounds label and we were creating an outlet. So we press Control, click, drag, release, and we call this animal sound label. Press return and it creates it for us. Okay, next we want an action. So each one of these buttons we're going to create its own action. So let's select the cat, press Control, click and drag, and let go. And remember to select action. And we're going to call this cat button tapped. And let's do the same thing for the dog. Control, click, drag, select action. Guess what? We're going to call this dog button tapped. Press return. Finally, cow. Control, click, drag. There we go. And then select action. And we say cow button tapped. All right, let's give ourselves a little space in here. A little room, make it easier to read. Very good. With this, each time we're going to update the animal sound label. So let's say animal sound label dot text equals, and guess what? Was a cat say meow? Of course. Let's do the same thing, only animal sound label. And notice I'm tabbing. Remember, I'm using autocomplete, so I'm tabbing quickly. You might see that this shows up quickly because I'm used to just tabbing. And then I say text, and I can press tab equals, what does the dog say? Bark, or roof, or whatever you want to call it. And finally, cow says moo. The real question though is, what does the fox say? All right, in order to play the sound, we're going to use some source code that's already been written for us. If you go to your Finder, back to the project, notice in the resources folder for animal sounds, there's a folder called simplesound.swift. So the way we're going to do this is we're going to add this file to Xcode, and there's a couple of ways you can add it, but the simplest is to take the folder that you're originally in, and then you click simplesound.swift, drag it all the way over to the navigator window, and then release. Now you have a few options here. You want to copy items if needed and make sure it's associated with this target. We'll talk more about these things later, but it's important to know that right now, when I go back to this folder of resources is not in the same folder that all of these source files are. So when I drag a file from a different folder, I want to select copy because I want to copy that in this folder so that everything's self-contained. Go ahead and click finish. The next thing we want to do is add the sound files. So go back to our folder. Let's go ahead and select these, and I can press Command and click, and I can select multiple. So let's go ahead and click and drag these files and just place them here. And again, same thing, copy items if needed, and choose finish. All right, now let's go back to our code, and here we're going to add and update each one of these methods. When we want to call a sound file, we're going to create a constant, and so we'll say let sound equal, and we're referencing the code that we brought in, and it has an API called Simple Sound. And so that then takes an item named, and this particular one is called meow. Notice this value here represents the name of the particular sound file. Then once we've created that object, then we want to say sound.play. Okay, I'm just going to copy, press Command C, and I'm going to paste, and I'm going to come down here and I'm going to paste. Now I need to update, so the dog says woof. Apparently this dog says woof. My dog says bark, but that, whatever. And moo. Perfect. All right, let's check it out. Meow. Bark. Uh-oh. Unable to find sound. Unable to find sound. Moo. I didn't like that. All right, let's fix a few things. One thing that we need to do is, first, we want to update this so that we create the constant outside of the function, so that if I click the button multiple times, we're not creating multiple instances of this object. So let me cut this. So I'm going to press Command X, and I'm going to click and add this up here, give myself some space. And when I do this, let's go ahead and call this meow, meow sound. And here I want to change this, and we're going to call it meow sound. Let's do the same thing for these others. If you triple click, where you click quickly, 1, 2, 3. When you triple click, it selects the entire line. Now I press Command X, and then I come up here and I paste it, and I want to change this. I'm going to say this woof sound, and come back here and say woof sound, and then finally triple click, Command X, and we can call this moo sound and moo sound. Okay, so now I've got this set up. Let's see if that helps. Let's go ahead and build and run. And unfortunately, it still says the same problem. Unable to find sound file with name, meow, woof, and moo. Let's go back. Let's make sure that we've typed everything correctly. And that's correct. Let's look at the book. Let's figure this out together. I want to skip ahead quickly. Okay. We added the simple sound file. We added the sound files. We have an instance, it says named, call the play method to play the sound. But it didn't like these, and it came back saying unable to find the sound. If I go back here and I select these, notice if I come back to the inspector, okay, here's why, and it was an oversight. Notice when I select the file, for some reason it's highlighted that way, which is a problem with Xcode. I don't know why. But notice it says target membership. If I select animal sounds, what happens is, and this is an oversight on my part, someone's probably been screaming at the screen going, "Bread, bread, you missed it." What I'm doing is I'm selecting the file, and then I am making sure it's part of a target, and I'll tell you what a target is here in a second. Select the last file and choose target. So now if I go back to the main project, and you've seen this screen before, and this has a lot of metadata, and we'll cover this in another video, but I just want to show you one thing. If I click over here, it says show project and targets list. A target is a compilable, runnable thing, and in this instance a target is the app that we're running. If I click up here at the top, notice how I only have this one animal sounds. That's my target. That represents this right here. This is an app, and this app will run based on what I select up here. I can run it on I have my iPad connected, for example, or I could run it on the simulator. Well, when you have a target, when you add files, you want to make sure they're associated with the target that you're building. Now, the reason you can have multiple targets, so you can have multiple versions of an app, say with different graphics and things, but that's not something we're going to cover in these videos. Just understand that when you import files, and notice when I select the simple sound file, it's already associated. But this was a mistake that I made when I imported these files. I did not select the target. What it means is these files did not get built into the app. So let's run it, and this should fix it. Wow, that was loud. Sorry, that was loud for me. I don't know about you, but that was loud. See, that sounds like a bark, doesn't it? Doesn't sound like a woof to me. Moo. Awesome. Isn't that cute? Cool. Very good. We did it. We solved it together, even with my mistakes. All right. Thank you for watching. Be sure to subscribe and check out the next video.